Hello and good evening. Okay, hello and good evening. Thank you for attending the meeting of the Cabinet tonight at the Civic Centre on Wednesday the 13th of July 2022. For those that don't know me, my name is Councillor Paul Foster and I'm the leader of the Council and I am chairing the meeting. Councillor Mick Titherington is the Vice Chair and Deputy Leader. Members of the Cabinet are present here in the Civic Centre. Also present with us are our officers required to support the meeting. Other members of the Council present in the Civic Centre should please switch on their microphone to indicate if they wish to speak at the appropriate time and switch them off once they have finished to avoid any feedback. Members who have dialed in via Teams are asked to keep their microphone on mute. Please use the raise your hand function to indicate a request to speak and mute your microphone once you have finished speaking. Reports will be presented by the relevant portfolio holder, after which I will bring the item into Cabinet for discussion. Once Cabinet has considered the report, I will invite comments from members not on Cabinet. After all members of the Council have been invited to ask questions on any agenda items, any members in the public in attendance will also be invited to speak, should they wish to do so. Individual members of the public will be restricted to speaking for a total of 5 minutes during the whole meeting. Please finally note that this meeting is being recorded and streamed live on YouTube. The web link for this is displayed on the agenda for this evening's meeting. Right, let's move swiftly on then. Apologies for absence. We have one apology from Councillor Belinsky-Gelder. Everyone else is present. Agenda item 2, declarations of interest. If a member has a pecuniary interest, they're required to leave the meeting completely. They can rejoin the meeting following the completion of the said item. Does any member have any interests to declare? Mick?
I don't have a pecuniary interest, but I think it should be known that I am a social member of the Fox Lane Cricket Club, which is on the agenda later.
Thanks for that, Mick, and that's duly noted. Thank you. Okay, agenda item 3, the minutes of the last meeting. I have the minutes of the last meeting of Cabinet held on the 20th of June 2022 and the 30th of June 2022 in front of me for approval. I am happy to propose these minutes as an accurate record. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Titherington seconding those. Are there any comments or questions on the minutes from any member of Cabinet? No, any member not on Cabinet? Okay, they've been proposed, they've been seconded, all in favour? That's unanimous, they're accepted. Agenda item 4 is the notice of executive decisions and the Cabinet forward plan. This is accessible via the web link on the agenda. As we have discussed before, previous meetings, this is a live document and it is updated daily, and hard copies of the latest plan are available for any members if they're required. I'm happy to propose that we accept the Cabinet forward plan and the notice of executive decisions. Do I have a seconder? Thanks, Councillor Titherington. Any questions or comments from any members of Cabinet? All I will say is there is, as always, is an awful lot of business on there and a number of significant decisions that need to be made in the coming weeks, so we need to keep a close eye on that. Are we happy to note the plan? Yep. Any questions from members not on Cabinet? Okay, that is duly noted. Right, moving on then to agenda item 5, which is the item for discussion is the bio. Yes, sorry, it's just been asked, just for those that are dialed in, if there was 2 sets of minutes, and yeah, I mentioned both, Matt, we've taken both at once, yeah. So both the meeting minutes of the 20th of June and the 30th of June have been adopted and accepted. So yeah, agenda item 5 is the biodiversity strategy, and I'll introduce the Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Health and Wellbeing, Councillor Mick Titherington.
Thank you, Leader. Well, the Cabinet is being asked to seek adoption of the strategy and the interim biodiversity action plan. We will be seeking adoption at Council if it is agreed here this evening. I think the first thing I would like to do is to commend the officers who've been involved in formulating and organising the consultation on the strategy, and I want to also thank all those that have made a contribution during that consultation period. Wherever possible, their suggestions or proposals or comments have been included in the final draft of the strategy and the interim action plan. As I say, often when I'm presenting reports such as this, it is a live document and it is always available for either, amendment, adaptation, or addition as situations arise or as possibilities arise to improve or help us in terms of implementing our strategy. I think that, by now we are all sufficiently aware of the fact that we have to do something to reverse the damage that we have done caused by or caused to our ecosystems by the very actions that we have taken. It is pleasing to note that we are leaders in the field with this. And when I've said before, leaders in the field, there is a pun intended there. But people will be pleased to note that the Lancashire, the Wildlife Trust for Lancashire, Manchester and North Merseyside have welcomed the council's initiative in this regard, and as said, that we are one of 26 local authorities who have approached this together with Manchester. So it's been before the Climate Emergency Task Group. The report is extensive and detailed and reflects on a number of issues. One, our current lifestyle and the compromising of our biodiversity, the statutory obligations under the Environment Act 2021, and the need to take action to conserve and enhance our biodiversity. There is a legal, moral and economic argument for doing so. And I can't think of anything that could be least contentious in presenting this report. So I am happy, therefore, to propose to Cabinet that we do note the report and present it to Council for adoption. Thank you, Leader.
Thanks, Mick. It's what we said when we've discussed this previously. It's a wonderful document. It's a really detailed document, really important document. I think we are actually the first council in Lancashire to adopt this, as you said, which is really pleasing. And thanks to Mick, you and the officers for ensuring that this happens. And let's send this to council. Let's get it adopted and let's start making a real difference. I'm happy to second those proposals, Mick. Any other questions from members on Cabinet? Councillor Flannery.
Thanks, Paul. I just want to support what's just been said, but just when you read through it, I know you're saying with one of the first or the leaders on it, the amount of work which has gone into this strategy is unbelievable. It's not only identified the priority species, it's where they are, the Latin name, where you can be found. It's absolutely a brilliant piece of work. So, well done to everyone involved, for Mick and the officers involved and the councillors who supported them. So well done.
Thanks, Jay. Any comments from members not on Cabinet for Mick? Councillor Walton.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I have no voice again, so I'll do it my best. I agree it is a very important document, and it's been very interesting reading some of the comments from the consultation, which I hope will be taken on board. I just have concerns about some of the rewilding areas. I'm all for rewilding, and I think it's really good, but perhaps not in some of the, I hope that some of the areas will be considered, especially near children's play areas. Where I think I've had a couple of emails from residents saying that it encourages dog fouling and ticks and litter in these areas. So I think that anywhere that's around children's play areas should be really considered before they're left to rewild.
Thanks, Karen. Mick?
Well, I mean, we have had some reports, or some people have reported that their children have been infected with ticks. I mean, I think we have to look at this in the round. I mean, this is a strategy that's got to be implemented. I mean, I think in my opening remarks, I mean, I did make the point is that the actions that we've taken as humankind has damaged the ecosystem so much is that we really do need to take some action. So whilst we've got to be cognizant of issues such as that, I mean, and where we can, we will improve the safety, but it really has to be done on a case-by-case basis, really, on and the merits of each particular case. I don't think you can reduce the risk when you're talking about biodiversity and species and insects and all that. You can't reduce the risk. I mean, we've got to live with insects, and they're doing an awful lot of good work in terms of the ecosystem. So, whilst we'll always be sort of aware to take sort of actions, appropriate actions, where we think it's unsafe on the balance of the evidence, we will do so. But I mean, the thrust of the strategy is that we really need to get on and be doing something to sort of protect, our ecosystems and biodiversity, because the consequences, other than taking action, are really scary.
Thanks, Mick. Councillor Tomlinson, did you want to add something in there?
Yeah, I think the comments was made about what a detailed report it is, and how impressive it is, and the fact that it uses a lot of evidence to come up with the recommendations in there. When it comes to using evidence, I think we have to be cognizant of evidence when we're responding to residents as well, because I saw some stuff on social media about ticks, but on investigating it and trying to find out what had happened, there'd been no reports of tick bites. No children had come forward and said they'd been bitten. In fact, it was a social media post by someone who'd been against the redevelopment of the playground where all this happened in the first place, who has continued to stir up trouble, who'd not only shared the news that there were ticks, but had stolen a picture off the NHS website of a tick bite and used that to back up their claims. Sadly, the children at the local school the day after were saying they weren't going to play on that playground anymore because they were going to get bitten by ticks. So I think it's really important that if residents approach us with things like this, we do look for evidence. If we find a site where there are ticks, then of course we need to be aware of that and react accordingly. But also we need to be aware that some people will approach us with unfounded claims for whatever their reasons are. And as Councillor Chitherington said, if we're talking about rewilding, that does suggest that there will be insects and flora and fauna. And it may well be that when you're going into those areas, you should be aware of that. But also, I think, as I say, it's really important that we react to these in an appropriate manner and don't get carried away.
Thanks, Matthew. Councillor Flannery and then Keith.
Just one last thing. Thanks for that, Paul. Just looking at the action plan, which again is very comprehensive. Consultation with community groups, schools, businesses, the community is in there. So any issues, Karen, which obviously some people feel like they may have, I'm sure that'll be covered as part of the action plan. Cheers.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Chair. I was a bit concerned about the initial report about the ticks, and a little bit disappointed about the article in the LEP as well, because they printed the misleading information first and then tried to back it up, but who goes past the first sort of paragraph? I mean, I've worked in, we live in a rural area or semi-rural area for some. I mean, if we're going to have to ban long grass for fear of ticks, then perhaps we should get rid of cows as well for fear of other biting insects, which I don't think is going to happen. I mean, I work in a rural area, in a rural setting, and I've never had an issue with that. But getting back to the report highlights how complicated our environment is, and it's not just what you see, it's what's underground and what's in the air well above us, and it's quite frightening, and the fact that the knock-on effect could affect nearly everything in here if it continues to go as it is. So we do need to. I mean, the report is absolutely brilliant. I'd like to see a bit more in it, and we've discussed that yesterday in our little meeting. So hopefully this will lead it. But the biggest issue that we had was comments about planning issues. And I think that's something myself and Councillor Flannery will be talking about in the very near future, to see what we can do with that. Because, I mean, unfortunately, it's scrutiny. There was enough wisdom to call a task group meeting to look at how developers are helping us with our goals, which helps people and keeps them happier and living longer and their amenity in a far better condition. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments, Keith. Any further comments from members? No, it doesn't appear. Claire, have we got anyone hands up from online? No, right. So we've been asked to basically, colleagues, send this to council for formal adoption and approval. Is everyone in favour? Yep, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Agenda item 6, bear with me, is the Climate Emergency Strategy and Action Plan update, including the annual greenhouse gas update. And that's the Cabinet Member for Health and Wellbeing, the Deputy Leader, Councillor Mick Titherington.
Thank you, Chair. I'm asking the Cabinet to accept the recommendations in this report. I think that all members will be fully aware of the background to the report. I've reported on a number of issues surrounding the climate emergency strategy throughout the year. And I suppose that if we ever needed a reminding of the need to take action, you only have to look at what's been happening across the world in terms of the impact that climate change is having with floods, excessive heat, and a whole host of other things. I think that we all realise is that the only way to tackle climate change is for there to be an internationally coordinated response to tackle the major issues that are involved with tackling the climate emergency. But I mean, I think from our point of view, we've got to do our bit. We've adopted our strategy. If you remember, we adopted a climate emergency. When the late Councillor Ken Jones moved a motion on the climate change, and in 2020, that was in 2019, 2020, we adopted the strategy. I believe if you look at the report over the last year, I think that we have made, without being complacent, we've made a degree of satisfactory progress. I don't think you can ever be sort of overjoyed or pleased with the progress that you're making on this, because it is such a monumental task. So again, I want to commend the officers who've been involved in not just compiling this report, but for all the hard work that has gone on throughout the year to try and to implement and deliver on our strategy. The task group, also, I would like to commend for the work that they have been done. It's an all-party task group, and I think that they have now started to sort of do the work there diligently and with commitment under the leadership and chairship of Councillor Keith Martin, whose knowledge and commitment to the strategy is and the passion that he has for it is there for all to see. The task group gave a commitment that the strategy would be reviewed and revised each year, and in this report they're fulfilling that commitment. The report paints a sobering picture, but it also explains some of the things that we have been doing, and in relation to the air quality, there are, as I say, a degree of satisfaction to note there that the air quality has been improving, but it is exceedingly difficult to really measure it because of the pandemic. And I mean, in the report, it does suggest that the carbon emissions from the council have gone up, but it also explains is that is because we have taken leisure back in house, and on the previous report there wouldn't be a reference to that because it was being run by Serco. But also it is worth noting that in the the aqua areas is that we are making a degree of progress, and maybe hopefully in the near future we might be able to remove some of those areas, at least one. But I mean, on the other side of it, everybody will be pleased, members will be pleased to note that there has been an investment of over £6 million in a number of different in different parts of the strategy that we're seeking to invest. We all know about the decarbonisation of the council estate, the leisure centres, the depot and the civic centre. Prior to that, we have had solar panels put on the and the LED lighting in the civic centre. We've set the domestic minimum energy efficiency status with our enforcement, and to raise those energy efficiency levels to a much more acceptable level. We've invested in the low carbon skills fund. We've had low carbon skills funding, and we are continuing with the implementation of electric vehicle charging points. So there is enough to be going on with. There is a lot of work to be done. There will always be work to be done, and I think the task group realised that. We have now started, the task group has now started issuing a monthly report on the progress of the various things that we've been involved in. We have engaged with schools, companies and other partners to see what we can do in terms of implementing our strategy on that. And of course, one of the things that we have already achieved is that we'll remember that we did a commitment that we would plant 110,000 trees, a tree for every member of the of the borough, and we would do that within the 4 years of our administration. I'm pleased to note that we've already achieved that, and we have got plans for another 27,000 to be planted during the next year. So the message is definitely not complacent. The update is there. Well done to all those who've been involved in delivering the strategy and the work that's been done, that's identified in the report, and much more to do. So, I mean, I just say to the Cabinet, I hope that they will accept the recommendations of the Cabinet and that we can take it to Council for approval.
Thanks, Mick, and thanks for the very, very detailed and thorough update and report that's been provided. And look, let's not beat about the bush. This is exceptionally important, and I think it's quite timely that we're sat discussing this in quite possibly some of the hottest temperatures that this country is ever going to experience. And I was speaking with some business colleagues down in London today, and they're basically saying it's at the point it's unbearable, the temperatures, and it's going to get higher and higher. So we need to deal with this. We really do. I think hindsight's a great thing, but I think we were probably in error, Mick, to not include the leisure centres in our initial calculations of our carbon footprints. But it is what it is. I know. Yeah, they weren't part of our estate, but they were still our assets, weren't they? But so it's a peculiarity that we have to accept. Again, the law of intended consequences in respect to the decarbonisation grants, and I'd remind colleagues on Cabinet that South Ribble received one of the highest grants in the northwest of England for any authority, upper tier or lower tier, and I'm absolutely convinced that was because we'd sourced the leisure facilities and we were in a position to put forward, the team was put forward a superb bid in a very short period of time, and so generally the officers should be commended for that. But that is, as you say, a consequence of a decision that the council made in sourcing its leisure facilities to the benefit of all our communities. The trees, Mick, again, congratulations. Again, even though there was a pandemic, we've planted the initial target. And you recall I was challenging from, as always, as I do, from year one that we exceeded that target. So we need to continue to plant as many trees as we possibly can all around the borough. And as you say, we're not complacent and we never will be. I have spoken to the chair of the action group, the climate change action group, Councillor Keith Martin, and thanks Keith for your continued efforts there. It is noted by every member of this council and the community, your passion for what you're doing. I spoke to Keith, Nick, about I think we really do need to push these air quality action areas within the borough as well. I know it states that the figures are coming down slightly, but I worry that that's a slight COVID. Cars stopped using the roads for a significant period during the lockdown, if you remember. So we've got to be careful with the data and how we analyse it as well. But I do think where possible, I know everything's a priority, but we do need to look at these areas. We've got particular problems in Leyland, Bamber Bridge and Lostock Hall. But it's a wonderful report. We're moving in the right direction. And as always, as a cabinet, as an executive and as a council, we need to do as much as we possibly can, and I'm happy to second the recommendations that you've put forward, that we do send it to council to adopt and update. Any questions, colleague? Councillor Tomlinson.
Thanks, Chair. A couple of comments from me. I agree with you that we can't be beating ourselves over the head here by adding in leisure and presumably in the future waste services to our measurement when they weren't at the measurement at the beginning. So you have to establish a baseline and then perhaps report those two separately. I add my congratulations to the team that wrote the bid up for the decarbonisation grant. An absolute game changer for us, absolute game changer, not only in our carbon reduction, but in our plans for our leisure centres long term, an absolute game changer. And then just one tiny little point. I'm not a vegetarian, I'm a meat eater, but I do try and eat a bit less, certainly red meat than I used to do. And we've got sandwiches on tonight and we're offering both meat and vegetarian options. And it seems to me that for one night a week, there's no reason why members shouldn't enjoy a buffet of a vegetarian option only. I hope that's not too controversial.
Thanks, Matthew. Councillor Flannery. Yeah. Or as the Chief Executive says no buffet, but we'll not go there. Councillor Flannery?
Thanks, Paul. I was at the Living Festival the weekend, Matthew, and there was a vegan stand. There was no one at that either. But anyway, we'll move on. I just want to again endorse, because we did last time when we looked at this, equally in terms of the quality of this draft climate emergency strategy. Keith, I know it was a cross-party effort, so that well done to everyone involved. But obviously the motion come from Ken, you've driven it, Mick's presented it, the officers have done a lot of work on this. But the reality is, and it is a serious issue, without change like this and without someone championing it like yourself, it never gets done, because the world's population has doubled in the last 50 years, believe it or not. Doubled in 50 years, and the consumption and everything that goes with that. And Keith's mentioned already about us talking about planning. There's a planning section in this, but people don't realise by 2025, every new house, you can't connect to the gas grid. You'll have to do it through an eco option, an environmentally friendly option. So policies coming through all the time, but it's only when councils like this adopt something, champion it, endorse it, and people like Keith champion it again and bring it to the fore. So I think we're reminded at most of our meetings about how important this is. And it is important because the young people in our borough demand that we do something about it, and we are doing something about it. So well done for everyone involved.
Thanks very much, Jay. Any comments? Councillor Keith Martin.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, humbly, thank you all for your comments. It's a team effort. And without the team, we're just all individuals, aren't we? So air quality is extremely important. Obviously, we remember the sad passing of that young lady in South London, and that was noted on her death certificate. I won't keep mentioning her name because I think it's probably inappropriate to do that. There are some other issues around air quality, and I fear sort of that the increase in fuel costs will probably impact on that as well. While people will not be able to afford to burn gas and use electricity, they'll be looking for alternative heat sources. And unfortunately, there was a raft of fires, wood burning stoves and things like that put in. Laws have changed on that, and there are strict criteria now on what you can burn in this, and that needs to be adhered to. So we need to, if you see a garage with a pile of wood outside in the rain for sale, they need to be chastised for that because it doesn't suit the regulations. The other thing I'd like to mention is that we sort of keep saying that the planet and us, we are here because of the planet, and we must respect that and remember that we're not here to, we shouldn't be changing the planet. We should be working with it. There's a few other points I'd like to make, but I won't now. I'll wait for full council. Thank you.
Thanks, Keith. And again, so thank you again from Cabinet, and please pass on the thanks to your colleagues on the cross-party working group for the works that you do, which it's key to what's been achieved here. You only need to look locally, don't you, at our friends in Chorley have got quite a challenge at the moment with the landfill fire, and it's internally combusting because of the heat, and it's just a nightmare across the board, and we need to do something about it. Right, any other comments from members not on Cabinet? No, Claire's anyone indicating to speak, Claire? No. Right, so the recommendations to Cabinet is that we note the work undertaken by the cross-party climate emergency task group, that we note the current carbon footprint of both the council and the wider borough, that we note the actions and progress being made towards a climate emergency in the air quality action plans and the wider agenda, and that we recommend to council to approve the updated climate emergency strategy. Councillor Timberton has proposed that. I'm happy to second. Are we all in favour? We indicate. Thank you. That's adopted and sent off to council.
Right. Can I just make a couple of comments before we move on to the next item on the agenda? Is that because you talked about we've got to do more about air quality. The International Car-Free Day is on the 22nd of September, so I think we'll be publicising that, and also from tomorrow until the 6th of August, there will be a butterfly count. So we'll be asking everybody to get involved in that. And one of the things that or a couple of things I didn't mention, is that on the responses on the consultation for the biodiversity, the age range was from 9 to 84. So, I mean, it just gives you a sort of, the spectrum of interest that there is in this. So, yeah, good stuff.
Thanks, Mick. Mick? Cheers, mate. So noted, and thanks for that, Mick. So moving on, so we're now up to agenda item 7, and just before we do move on any further, just bear with me. So we're on to agenda item 7. We're on to agenda item 7 now, and which is the investment in the local leisure local facilities, which will be presented by the Deputy Leader and the Cabinet Member for Health and Wellbeing. But I just want to quickly check something out and clarify something with the Monitoring Officer. Right, okay, moving on, thank you. So this will be presented, item 7, the investment in leisure local facilities, the Deputy Leader and the Cabinet Member for Health and Wellbeing, Councillor Mick Teddington.
Well, the recommendations in the report are asking us to consider the investment proposals in the individual projects that we are talking about. But I think I just want to say a couple of things generally by way of introducing it. I mean, I think everybody by now is clear that within our leisure and sport facility strategy, there is a section that relates to Lancashire Local, and I think again everybody now knows is that we've been consistently pushing this, and the idea is to ensure that those facilities that we have within our schools and within the sports clubs and other places, is that we want to release them so that they, where they're currently underused from a community's perspective, we want to release them so that we can have those facilities available for communities to use in their localities. And in that way, it makes it easier for them to make healthy lifestyle choices, and really that's what it's all about. This administration has been committed to doing something to address the health inequalities that exist within the borough, and I think the track record shows is that we have been working with partners, groups, schools and others to ensure that we do deliver in making sure that the facilities are there to enjoy by the community in places where close to where they live. And there is a sort of, there is a moral and economic argument, as always with these things, is that because we all know that if you engage with physical activity, you probably have a better mental your physical and mental well-being also improves, and that eases stresses and strains on the health service. So I'm absolutely I was going to say delighted, but I'm not delighted. I'm pleased with the progress that we have made. I think I've made announcements of investments into the Lost Hall Academy, Vernon Caddis, which is featured on television yesterday. There's a number of others that I'm just trying to think of. But there are a number of others, and apologies if I missed them out. Gregson Lane is one that comes to mind, but we've also been investing in other areas, and I know that we recently had a number of applications that we were able to support under the Leisure Local Fund that was allocated by Councillor Matthew Tomlinson in the budget, which I described as a community budget, and I keep emphasising that because this is what these reports are, what it's all about. It's about reaching out and engaging with the public and showing that their council is doing what they can to make sure that the best facilities are available to them. I mean, we've already made progress on other things like Bamber Bridge and the leisure centres, and we're investing in those leisure centres. So this is a continuation of that, and it shows the consistency and the determination in which we will deliver on our strategy of leisure local. The two, excuse me. The two awards that we're looking to invest in are Fox Lane Sports and Social Club and Penwith and Priory Academy. If you look at Fox Lane Sports and Social Club, they have been engaged for some time with our community officers in offering a number of opportunities for people to go in, chat. They're really loom large within the Leyland area in terms of what they offer, in terms of bowling, tennis, cricket, and they have been engaged, and they also engage with the hockey club. So there is a number of sporting clubs and with different activities that are going on there. I mean, but like everywhere else and a lot of other clubs, they have been suffering by the lack of income to maintain and improve the facilities that are available. And as far as we're concerned, I mean, we want the best facilities to be available for our residents within the borough. And if you look at the case that's been made out for supporting the club in this respect and in this report, I think it's a cast iron case of us showing that we are prepared to support those clubs who are prepared to support and go out and engage with the community. So I mean, I'm really pushing that we do support the club with this, because it will be a major attribute to the sporting facilities within Leyland. Likewise, within the Penwith and Priory Academy, you remember that some time ago they took back their facilities back in-house. I mean, and at that time when I was in discussions with them, I asked them to bear in mind what we were trying to achieve with the leisure local, what we were trying to do in terms of sort of opening up facilities in schools and such like for the benefit of the community. And both Jennifer and I did visit the school recently, and we're pleased to note that there are a number of community groups that are using the facilities there, and I know of some groups that are really because of the usage is that they're having difficulty getting the time slot that they want, but it is being a success story in terms of engaging the public and the community, and we, with the facilities there that we're asking to support, are in need of repair, and it falls in line with us providing the best of facilities that we can for our people to enjoy. So I also think that that's there is evidence there, and it is a project that we should support. So both individually and collectively, I am asking the Cabinet to support this for it to go forward to council. And just one other thing, there is a reference to Balshaws that we've also been talking to, but there are a number of other issues that need to be involved there before we come back with any firm proposals. But there's references made to it. Cheers.
Yeah, thanks, Mick. Yes, so yeah, with Balshaws, so we'll continue to do the work with the school there, and when we're ready to obviously bring a separate and subsequent update paper back to Cabinet, and I know you're looking at that with officers as we speak. The leisure facilities within South Ribble across the board are unrecognisable. And you only need to look at Vernon's as a prime example. I know it's timely that it was Gary and I are signing some photographs later for you if you wish to sit down. But joking aside, Vernon's, it's unbelievable when you see hundreds and hundreds of young people down there using the facilities, and they're using the facilities because of the investment and the courage that this council had in supporting them, and they're completely self-sufficient now, and they're thriving. And those young people are getting exercise, the elderly are getting exercise, and it's just an absolute win-win. And you then look how the strategy is just working, the leisure local strategy is working, Mick. You know, you've championed this from day one, and that all areas across the borough now are benefiting post-pandemic from the investments that we've made. You look at the Banbury Bridge Football Hub is just about to open, the work that we did at Much Hill with the bowling green and the community centre, if you remember, that's the first one we invested in. And then the number of leisure local community fund grants that were made last month as well, which will change, will game changers for a lot of our local clubs. Taking these to, the Penwith Priory Academy to start with, the easy one. And what's also pleasing about this is to see that we've developed and brought back our relationship with the school to where it needs to be. It was challenging when Serco were managing the facilities there. It was difficult for everybody. We went our separate ways, so to speak. So I'm really pleased to see the proposals now that we're working closely with the Academy, Mick, once again. And I note that 43% of the time now, these facilities that we're looking to financially support will be available to our local community. Again, that's really, really pleasing, and it's needed out there in Penwitham. And then, as you say, the wide-ranging investments planned for Fox Lane, and Fox Lane, the cricket club there and the sports club's been with us for years and years and years. And, the pandemic nearly had it. It really did. And so, again, I feel we have a duty as a local authority to support our local community and the local businesses in ensuring that the club continues to thrive, and this investment will have a huge impact on it locally. So, given that, I'm more than happy to support the proposals as presented and ask council to rubber stamp them both. Any questions, Councillor Tomlinson?
Thanks. I'm presuming from the conversation at the beginning that's you proposing it, and I'll second if that's what we want to do.
Yeah, just to be absolutely clear, so Councillor Titherington is proposing the adoption of the Penwith Priory Academy. I'll second that. I'm proposing the Fox Lane Sports Club, and you're seconding that, Matthew. Yeah. Okay.
And I just want to make a general comment, really. As from a finance point of view, there's a report from the statutory finance officer that talks about how this will be funded, so I'm quite content with that. But in general, I think what this report demonstrates is just what the leisure local strategy is all about. It is a significant amount of money, but if we were trying to develop these facilities on our own, you could add notes to the end of that money. And yet, because we're working in partnership with existing facilities, we're able to ensure that they can continue for the foreseeable future. So I think this is a culmination or a continuation of that strategy that Mick developed in the first year or so when we formed an executive, and it's really coming to fruition now, and it's great to see. And I'm happy to support the Penwitham one and second the Fox Lane proposal.
Gary?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. We've talked a lot about sporting activities, and that's important, but well-being is equally important. There's a big focus, particularly on the Fox Lane investment, about things that they're doing in the community, advancement of work on social isolation, dementia, all those kinds of issues. This will enhance the facilities to enable them to do more of that work as well. So we've got to remember sport is important and activity is important, but well-being is equally as important as well. And given our population and what's happening in the population, this is going to be more of a focus as we move forward. So this is for the longer. This is a long-term investment for the future as well.
Yes, thanks, Gary. Absolutely. Just to pick up on something that Councillor Tomlinson raised, I think it's important. Cabinet are acutely aware that the plan is that we fund this investment from Section 106 contributions, developer contributions. However, if there is any gap funding requirements that we, in waiting for them, 106 it says in the report how that would be funded in the short term. But I think it needs to be made clear to our community and to all councillors that the plan is that this isn't, this isn't being paid for by debt. This is being paid for by Section 106 contributions from developers that are developing and adding to our local community. And then, as Matthew said, that's detailed in the report anyway. Councillor Flannery.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I would just also like to endorse and just make a small point. Post-COVID, the sustainability agenda for these organisations is key. So these small bits of investment, and they are relatively small, are the difference in them being sustained. It's been mentioned here, Fox Lane's been going since Mick was a lad, probably 100 years or so, Mick. But on a serious point, these organisations have evolved in the community, and as Gary just said, not just for sport and activities, it's access, it's well-being, it's actually things which used to happen, which has only been identified now, the importance of mental health and things like that. So they are key areas. The other thing I would like to say is it's our residents who pay the council tax and the businesses who pay the rates, and all we do is administer the money. So it is their money as well. So it's good to see it going back into the communities for community use. And it's good to see both of these investments going where there's lots more activity, which will help a lot of people directly and indirectly. So well done. Cheers.
Thanks, Jay. Any comments from members not on Cabinet? Councillor Will Adams.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, no, I think Gary made a good point there. I think a lot of this investment you'll see in our local leisure local strategy. A lot of the clubs that we're supporting, and Fox Lane being one of them that we're talking about tonight. You'll see age groups from kids that are 3 and 4 years old to old lads and women. Not mentioning Mick there in that bracket, but who are also part of it. And it's these places are at the heart of our community, and a lot of the time they're the beating heart of the community. And I think it's important to say that many of these clubs, Fox Lane included, have been really struggling for the last 10-15 years, and it's been a real challenge for the volunteers to just keep them going and keep them open. And they've done that because they know how important it is to the community. So I just think it's so refreshing to see the level of support that the council's given them. And the best thing for me to see is that it's borough-wide, and it's not just a couple of areas which benefits maybe a political party, but it is borough-wide because the need is there for the communities and all those communities, which is so important. So I think it's just a fantastic thing to see and to be a part of. So credit to everyone involved for making it happen, and I look forward to more of it in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Will. Councillor Keith Martin.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, I remember some years back that this council, or a member of this council, used to declare that this council had no responsibility for any social issues that are around the borough, and how wrong was that? Because we proved that what we can do with a relatively small amount of money has a massive impact on residents, and is there amenities that we're improving. When you look at sort of stats, that mental health sickness is about a third of all sicknesses in the country. It impacts home, and anyone who's seen the very negative side of mental health we'll see that just a little bit of interaction can make a huge difference. Even for, say, opening a bridge along a footpath can make a big difference to someone, because it may help their anxiety. So, and congratulations to everyone who's pushed this. I'm not a sporty type, as you may work that one out, and probably one or two others in this room as well. And some may have played tennis in courtyards, you know what I mean? But anyway, that's it. So so I mean, congratulations. I mean, I see it from my point, from a hobby that I have outside of this borough council, and the effects that just having a little bit of interaction can have, and it gives, at the least, it gives people hope that they can continue and strive forward with our help. Thank you.
Thanks, Keith. Any members dialing in? No. I know I mentioned, didn't I, just before, about the TV programme that we've been supporting with Freddie Flintoff, but there's a very prime example there. You just look at the impact that the sport, the team, the camaraderie, and the health and well-being of those young men, those kids that have been that Freddie's been working with, the huge positive impact it's having on all of them. And that's the message, and that's what we're trying to spread throughout the borough and wider, if that's the case. And the health and well-being of our residents has got to be one of our number one priorities, and that this is a significant key and a piece in the jigsaw of delivering that. So we're more than happy to endorse what's been suggested. Keith, did you want to come back?
It was remiss of me not to mention. I'd have to mention Paul Morris and his boxing club, because it's been briefly mentioned here. But the work he's done with some of our funding and our support has not only just helped young children and young adults, but it's helped them go forward in life with a positive outlook, rather with something they can run with. So I think all credit should be going to all those sort of people who get involved in these small clubs and give their all for our young people's futures.
Yep, thanks again, Keith. So, Mick, you're just going to quickly close off with a couple of the comments, and then we'll take it to the vote.
Yeah. Well, I'm grateful for all the comments. I mean, I think that we've always made the point, although we've been talking about sport here. I mean, we know that not everybody is involved in sport, and that's why we developed the Green Links. So when we talk about activity, we're not just talking about sport. We're talking about being able to get out there and enjoy the environment in which you live. I mean, because we all know, and it's been mentioned again, that any sort of activity, physical activity, does improve mental well-being. I mean, and that's what it's all about. And I think you do raise a very important point, is that, I mean, and you made the point as well, Leader, is that we are resurrecting the sports clubs awards, or the sporting awards, this year. I mean, and I know the last time we held them, the point was made, and I made the point, is that sport is so important to people, particularly when you talk about team sport, because it's not just about the participation in that particular activity. It's about the camaraderie, the sense of teamwork, the inclusion, the fact that you build friendships and all that. And I mean, the same can be said if you're walking the dog or you're going for a walk. If you're getting out there and you're doing that activity, you tend to meet people with the same interests, which then improves your mental well-being. So thanks very much. I mean, I really do appreciate all those comments, and I think that's what we're taking on board when we look at the strategy and what we're trying to do and delivering it. So, I mean, I recommend those recommendations.
Right, thanks, Mick. So we've considered both investments individually. If we move to the vote now, so the first one, Mick, you're going to not participate in. So that's the Cabinet notes and approves the investment proposal for Fox Lane Sports and Social Club. The project is ready to go, and funding can be provided immediately once grant agreements are in place. I'm happy to propose that recommendation. Councillor Tomlinson has seconded it. Jay, do you agree? Yes, so that's unanimous. So then we go on to recommendation 4, which Cabinet notes and approves the investment proposal for Penworth and Priory. Funding is provided up to the proposed value, subject to final quotes from contractors. Councillor McTillerington has proposed that. I have seconded it. All in favour? That's unanimous, and I believe that that now goes to council next week for endorsement. Yeah, thank you. Right, so we've got one agenda item left, which is, unfortunately, we have to exclude the press and public force. If any of the press and public are watching, we thank you, and we'll see you next week at the meeting of the council. So we're just going to turn the link off now quickly. Well, no, sorry, we have to have a formal vote on this. I'll propose it. Councillor Flannery seconded it. All those in favour? Yep. Okay, Claire, you can do it now.